One you're ready.
Okay, so welcome back to another episode of the Manchester SEO podcast. Today we've got Steph Scholes with us. Got that wrong. Got that wrong? How have I got that wrong?
Sure.
Okay, so welcome back to another episode of the Manchester SEO podcast. Today we've got Steph Scholes with us today. I'm laughing because I've done this before and got the name wrong, and it's very embarrassing. But Steph here is an executive coach. We're going to learn a bit more about her life and what she does, and looking forward to it. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Welcome. Sorry for the worst introduction ever. The trials of hosting a podcast is it's interesting. Anyway, welcome.
Thank you very much.
So tell us a bit more about what you do at the moment.
Okay, so as you've said, I'm Steph. I have a business called Inspiration Coaching and Support Limited, which has been operational since August 2023.
Okay.
So it's been a journey, as is all kind of coaching and personal development. But kind of started out with the thought process of I was going to do life coaching. Okay. But that's kind of morphed into executive coaching, but also spiritual coaching and supporting people to live the life that gives them the most purpose and fulfillment. And has also now got the corporate-based angle of me utilising my previous experience within the health and social care sector, which is about a 24-year career, I think it was, to have a care consultancy onto the business as well. Yeah. So, it's taken been on a very big journey.
Yeah. So how did you get into the coaching side of things?
So, as I say, I've got my background is nursing. Yeah. So, I started out in health and social care when I was 18. Did 2 attempts at going to do my nursing, and then finally did it the second time round. Yeah. And spent most of my 15 years within the NHS and private settings doing acute surgery and kind of looking after patients that were coming in with real challenges and helping them to get better and obviously send them back on the way, which on my path to being a coach, I've realised actually I coached all the way through that because couldn't understand why I hated medicine so much because it was just popping pills and people staying poorly, I realised. But as I was in the last 2 years of my career, I was doing project management for mental health and social prescribing across Cheshire East. So massive role, supporting the voluntary sector, supporting all the community mental health transformation across the system. And as I was coming towards the end of that contract, which wasn't being renewed, it was like, what's my next step? Where am I going? I was at senior management level. I was going for lots of job interviews, being picked to the post because there was a lot of movement at that point in time in the NHS as well. And became a bit frustrated with it, but I was becoming frustrated with the system anyway, I noticed, because it felt that a lot of the measures that were being put in place were short-term measures. It'd be short-term funding, so somebody would start with a service, they'd have really powerful impact, and then that funding would be cut and that person would be left almost hanging off a cliff. Sure. And that I found really, really challenging. Because to me that wasn't transformational, that was short-term fixes. Putting people back into that ever-going cycle. I'd been on a coaching journey myself, so I've always been quite a physical person, quite an active person, and I manage so I've got chronic health myself. I've got a condition called fibromyalgia, which is a chronic pain condition, and I've always managed that in a holistic way because medications don't agree with me. So I've always utilised crystals, different healing therapies like Reiki and things, and also used my physical body to help manage it. So I do pole fitness to manage my condition. Sure. And in kind of doing that, I then went on my coaching journey to improve my physical health further, which obviously improved my mental and health and resilience too. Sure. And whilst I was on that coaching journey, everyone was saying to me, wow, how are you doing it? Because I'd gone from being nearly a size 16 down to an 8 to 10. And I'd just say to people, it's quite simple. You do this, this and this sort of thing. And they were saying, you make it look so easy. You're so inspirational with what you're doing. We love it. You're a natural coach. So when I wasn't getting these jobs, My team around me within the transformation team was saying, do you not realise the universe is guiding you in a different direction? And I was like, really? I went through the whole thing that every business owner I think goes through when they've been in the corporate world of, I can't start again. I can't go back to not earning money. How can I go back to being a novice? When you become an expert in your field, it's really hard. And I kind of didn't get a choice because the jobs weren't happening. So it was like, okay, we're all in. So yeah, launched the business and now start to help other people live that life.
Good. Okay, there's lots of questions there. I think I was talking to someone else who works in the care sector, and he's runs courses for GPs, and it's about the consultation. And he was talking about it being a coaching style, and how and the way you communicate with people that come in, and as to what are you expecting, what would you like to happen from this chat. And it's interesting how sometimes just feeling like someone's interested in you can really help make you feel better. And
yeah, totally. It is about listening. It's about being there. It's about validating how somebody's feeling, what's going on for them. I think it's really positive. That's the kind of the training that's going into the NHS. That's amazing. I think it's a massive culture change to implement that. I mean, they are trying to bring in different coaching mentalities and stuff into the NHS, but archaically, everybody is expected that to go to the NHS, they're going to fix them. And a lot of that fixing has been with medications, whereas medications and holistic health go hand in hand. But there is a lot going on within the system and much wider about integrative healthcare. So that's where you're bringing your holistics in to match the kind of medicalised model. And it is needed. It definitely is needed. So it's positive to hear that those changes are starting to be drip-fed in.
Well, I don't know. This is just from a conversation. So I can't confirm or deny anything, but it was a really lovely chat about that and the psychological aspects of health and all that. So I've spoken to a lot of people that feel like they've been guided into the role that they do now, and they fought it for years or whatever. And when you look back now, are you happy with the decision you made?
Totally and utterly, yeah. I've always been on this pathway. I just maybe didn't realise I lost sight of it at times. For instance, I know that I've coached since being about 10 years old. My mum was a swimming teacher and used to run a disabled swimming club up in Stockport on a Monday night, and I used to go along and get in the water and coach the children. Some of them were my age, but it was just that safe space for them to know that they could have somebody to support them in learning a new skill and doing something that was really good for their well-being, I suppose. Didn't know I was doing it at 10 years old, but I was. And as I say, it's gone through my career, even to the point of when I was at university. If my peers were struggling with the lectures we'd have and didn't understand something, I would sit with them after we'd done the lecture and I'd be talking through the notes so that they understood it in a better way. And these are all little things that kind of drop into my mind, and I'm like, oh Jesus, yeah, I have always been doing it. I'm like the spiritual side to the woo-woo witchy side, which I love, that I've been involved with. I think my first memories of that are about 7 years old.
Right.
Either knowing that there's something more than us, or the idea, like for instance, my next door neighbour's husband died very suddenly. He was very young, and I just picked up on the fact that there was something wrong. I knocked on the door to see if I could help, and I was, like 7, 8 years old. My mum went mad at me, but it was, and I didn't realise at that point in time I was always going to be of service to others, and I was always going to pick up on the signs that other people might not realise are there to know that something was wrong with somebody or that they needed help.
Do you think growing up with a mum as a swimming coach had an effect on that?
Quite probably. I wouldn't have realised that either, I don't think. All those years sitting by pools going, oh Jesus, again.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think I'm the kind of person that I pick things up very quickly. I'm very intuitive. And if somebody else isn't on that path or they learn differently, they have a different processing style, I pick up on that and I'm very, adept at tweaking it. So that's obviously something that I've learned and nurtured from a young age.
When I'm pausing because I'm wondering whether to bring this up, but I think my son's very intuitive. He's only young, and I think sometimes the intuition is more mature than he's emotionally capable to deal with.
Yes.
Did that give you any? Was that tricky, challenging as you're growing up?
Yeah.
Like lots of questions and.
Yeah, I think so. Being told that you're wrong.
Yeah.
Being told your peers are scared of things that you say that you know are going on. I suppose, like you say as well, because we all develop at a different rate, don't we? As you've just said, like your son's developmental level isn't quite at the point of his gut feeling. And that must be a discord for him, because he must be like, well, but I know it. And I suppose as children, everything around us is conditioning us to behave in a certain way. I think we're becoming a lot more open to it, obviously with neurodiversity and everything that is around us nowadays. People are more open to actually we're needing to change styles, we need to look at our different approaches. But as a child currently growing up in it, we still are moulded by our parents' expectations, aren't we? And our peers' expectations. I mean, how old is your son?
7.
7. So yeah, he's at that point where he's come to 7 years, he's absorbed everything that's gone on around him. And now he's getting to a point where he's noticing there's differences. He might notice that actually somebody else doesn't think like he does, or why do they act that different way? And he's going to start questioning the world a little bit now.
Yeah, I was just concerned about when's my next meal and can I go and play sports? Something like that. That's
like my
me. So, right, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
It's all right, you know. Anyway, so what you do now? Why do people give you a call, contact? You know, what's going on? What's the kind of things that you help people with? Yeah.
So the people, I mean, obviously with coaching can be applied to many different scenarios, can be applied in many different situations. That's why we have such a plethora of different coaches around. You have your business coaches, you have your lifestyle coaches, you have your spiritual coaches, you have your leadership coaches. They're all like different kind of focal points, let's say. For me, anyone who's coming to me, generally they are feeling that the majority of their life is good. So a lot of the people I work with are like your CEOs, your managing directors, your senior managers, who, to all intents and purposes to the rest of the world, they look like they've got it made.
Yeah.
They've got a lovely house, a lovely car on the drive, perfect man and woman on their arm. The kids are all doing really well or thriving, but there's something that isn't adding up.
Yeah.
And they're feeling that even though there's all that success and abundance around them, something just doesn't hit the chord quite right. There's something more.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, that stems down to inner child issues. So like we just talked about the conditioning and obviously your son's developmental point and how that's going to change now. Some of it's due to that and the conditioning and expectations that our family, our peers, our parents put on us, meaning that we show up in a way that doesn't feel authentic to who we are. Some of it can be that actually in that kind of comparative situation, like a lot of us went through in the 80s and 90s and noughties potentially, where they were compared to the peers, like, well, you're not behaving like your brother did, or you're not doing this because look at how well Blogs Across the Road is doing in his GCSEs and you've come home with Fs or whatever, sorry, 3s or whatever they are now. So some of it will be that because you've been compared, so you become a high achiever because you think, well, if I keep achieving, I'm going to get the validation that I want from people. People are going to be happy with me.
Yeah.
And that then internalises into people-pleasing behaviours. So saying yes to everything even though you might not want to. Going to too many meetings because you'll stick another one in the diary because you've got to do it really, haven't you? The boss won't be happy if you don't. Going for those senior positions and then not getting them and thinking it's something about you. All those different things. And a lot of the time it stems down because of that comparison, because of that need to seek the validation. They've never actually validated themselves. So they've never really loved themselves. And that means that they're constantly trying to prove their worth because they don't feel it. So it stems back to that. Like one client I've been working with for about 15 months now came to me, had been in domestic violence relationships, had been always felt like he just wasn't meeting the mark and things weren't right, and now sees that actually like the really nice car that he had was all sticking plasters over it to try and make himself feel better. The high-end clothing was all to try and make him feel better, but deep down he wasn't. And since working with me, he has seen a total transformation in that. He really loves himself. Life's going really well. He's actually looking forward to scaling everything back and going living by the sea, because that's what he'd love to do. Not having the expensive cars, not having all the overheads. And has actually potentially met somebody who aligns with that as well now, who is a beautiful being and is going to bring what he needs to that relationship. So it's really powerful.
It's interesting that the process of understanding what makes you happy, that really makes you happy, what brings fulfillment rather than a short-term hit of dopamine.
Totally.
I used to watch my neighbour. I can see through into the kitchen. Sounds bad, that, doesn't it? Well, I wasn't spying on him, but from the driveway you can look in, and I could see like him just sat looking out his back window in complete peace, and he was. I'd watch him make a coffee. So sounding even worse, isn't it? And it's just that process of making the coffee that he enjoyed, rather than the actual drinking it or anything. He just seemed like happy in what he was doing, and the process of everything. I thought, this guy's...
Everything was mindfully done.
Yeah, he's got it sorted, this fella. And so it was a bit of a realisation for me at the time that I need to kind of slow down a little bit. Maybe not.
We're so busy running at life all the time that we miss everything.
Yeah.
We miss the beauty, we miss the leaves on the trees blowing, the different colours of the leaves on the trees, we miss the smell of coffee. Like you say, I had it a few weeks ago, because even I'm guilty at times, we all are. I had it a few weeks ago where I picked up my little boy and thought, you know what, I'm going to go and grab a coffee on the way back, just to have a bit of pause, because it was an early start and he can be a little bit challenging, let's say. And I sat, and honestly, the sip of that coffee, and I was like, oh my God, this is the most beautiful coffee ever. And I think it was the moment. It was actually sitting, it was stopping, it was pausing. So, yeah, we get so much more when we connect with it.
Yeah. So, away from work, what do you like doing? We had a conversation about this in
We did.
the networking event that, you know, well, you're a singer and you've done that for quite a long time.
Yeah. I mean, that is another business. So aside of work, I work. No, I do take time out. So I've got another business, which actually I've had for a lot longer than my coaching business. Right. I have been an entertainer for it's coming up about 23 years now, I think.
Do you think so I was involved I grew up in quite a religious family, and we go to church, and I was very aware of a thing that came from singing that was whether it's a vibration or lots of people doing the same thing that gives real joy to people.
Definitely. There's so many things that we can use to raise our vibrations, and if we raise our vibrations, we get back so much better as well. You think when you're walking around and you're kind of down and you've got that face on you and that mindset, the world looks pretty shit.
Yeah,
so I don't know if I'm supposed to swear in the podcast.
No, you can swear it.
I'm a bit of a potty mouth. I've been behaving. Whereas when we're raising our vibration, if you believe in the universe and everything, which obviously I do, then that abundance comes back to you. A bit like yourself, I was brought up Roman Catholic, so I went to church and everything as well. And I can always remember, I think one of my favourite times was actually Christmas. It was the Christmas Eve Mass, where everybody everyone sang Christmas carols, and it was beautiful, everyone was celebrating. And I suppose that's because of that abundance. But now it's like, I'm not a big Stoke fan, but my other half's got a box there, so we'll go to see Stoke. I'm a Man U fan, but we go and see Stoke sometimes. And the energy that you get from everybody singing together, from everybody kind of chanting and cheering and everything. I'm getting all goosey now. I just love that.
Yeah.
It's community. That's exactly what it is. And I'm really lucky, like, that is one of the most powerful parts, especially for me with my singing, when I'm entertaining. It's the connection with the audience, obviously. It's being able to see them having a good time from what I'm delivering, but it's that connection with them when they're singing a song back at me.
Yeah.
Or like, say I'm singing Don't Stop Believing, I've got getting them arms in the air and they've all got their arms in the air singing along. It is absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's a real, I can't remember what the word, but, you know, if you've, we might touch on it now, if you've done any breathing work and the connection or the effect of that is much greater with, well, when you're doing it with people and on your own.
Yes.
And that's always fascinated me. You know, like we're all little batteries that should all be joined up together and we can create more from that.
We think, what does isolation do to us? It makes us sad. It makes us get stuck in our own heads. It makes us have that experience on our own, when actually, when you have any experience with anybody, it normally lifts it. Like, I've had a conversation with my VA on the way here, and full transparency to her as well, I thought I was going to have to say, I can't keep working with you at the moment, I'm not in a financial position within the business. And actually, as it was, we talked through the issues that have been going on, and by the end of it, I was like, actually, do you know what? This business is growing in a couple of months' time when I've had a bit of a break, and we're going in at full hog, and she's staying with me in the process and helping me build it.
Right.
So, like, in my head, it was a very different story. And I think it is Brené Brown says, the story I'm telling myself. So whenever you go into a situation, you see a reaction to something, you tell yourself a story, but actually it may be very different for the other person on the receiving end.
And, I mean, there's so much that goes into that in terms of, there's obviously, as Joe Dispenza, he talks about if you believe that your thoughts can make you sick,
They will make you sick.
then surely the opposite is also true.
Yeah.
In sport and performance, they talk about obviously a positive mindset. There's a book called The Golfer's Mind,
Okay.
which I talk
It's not
about
what
quite
I've
a
heard
lot.
of.
No, and I'm not really a golfer. But it actually is quite interesting how it says, you know, the difference between a good club golfer and a professional is that if they're both taking the same shot and there's bunkers around the green, a good club golfer might say, don't hit the bunker. And invariably, they'll hit the bunker because the mind doesn't know the difference between positive and negative.
Yeah.
Whereas a professional might say, yeah, I'm going to hit that part of the green, or I'm going to go for
I'm going to get it in that hole. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It's that what you focus on is what you're going to achieve or what you're not going to achieve. So if you think you will, you will. If you think you won't, you won't. Simple as. It's the same when so I'm a motorbiker. Well, I will be once I get my test done. I've booted a cone the first one, so I failed. But I remember being taught that, and it was a case of you don't focus on the curve, because if you look at the curve, that's where you're going.
Yeah.
And it's true. There is a word for it, and I've forgotten what the word is, but it is something to do with that focal point. And like you say, your brain doesn't know what is true and what isn't true. If you believe, or say you visualise something is happening, your brain thinks that's already happened to you. So for instance, if you're scared to death of doing a presentation and you keep believing and keep running through that presentation in your head, your brain thinks you've done that presentation already and you're in a much better space to actually present properly, talk to people and show up.
Yeah.
Whereas if you sit there going, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this, I'm going to fail, my arse is going to be angry now, or my boob's going to fall out of my top, or something like that. Whatever it is that you think, your brain thinks that's already happened, so it plays it out for you. So it is huge what our minds can do. Definitely.
We had Bryn Thompson on, who's from Transformational Selling, do sales training, and he talks about, you know, if you're doing a presentation in front of 200 people, well, and you're worried about it and nervous, he said, well, I'd go back to, well, why are you doing it? You know, the anchor yourself into, well, someone's asked you to do this for a reason. It's because you're good at something.
Yes.
Use those positive anchors to to do things or visualize a positive outcome and the whole process, so that your mind is then not focused on. Yeah.
It's always important to reconnect with your why. Why are you doing anything? Why are you choosing? Why are you utilising your energy, which we don't have unlimited energy, we only have a certain amount of it. Why are you utilising it for that situation? Is it for a positive outcome? If it is, brilliant, throw it at it, because you're going to get more back. But if actually it's going to drain your energy, then think about whether you should be there in the first place, or whether you should be doing what you're doing. And that's a big element of coaching. It's about people reconnecting to their why and what they're doing it for, understanding that bigger purpose, because then they're going to take that decisive action towards it if it's the right thing for them. And if it's not, then they shelve it and get rid of it.
Do you think performing regularly on the stage is, and having to sing, because nerves can have a massive effect on voice
Totally.
and all that, do you feel that constant repetition and maybe singing to bigger crowds and stuff like that goes into you being able to coach people and
Definitely.
things like that?
Definitely. And I think the really interesting part of that is that people always perceive that entertainers don't struggle with nerves, don't struggle with their chimp, so your emotional kind of responses. They don't stand on stage thinking they're crap and no one likes them. I bloody do. Definitely. And especially, when I've launched anything new, so when I launched Madonna, I remember clear as day trying to do some of the moves she did and having two women laughing at me and thinking they're laughing at me, they think I'm shit.
Yeah.
And do you know what? Now I've won 4 or 5 awards for my tribute, so I'm not. So and you do get it. I think a lot of it is your environment too. If you're not in the right space, then you're going to pick up on those negative energies, and that's going to show in you as well. You can only show up as your best version when you're confident, you're calm, and you're well versed in what you're doing, or you know your reason for doing it. So yeah, I think singing on stages has helped that, and it's interesting how that's linked into my coaching, but also my other business development with the training as well.
Yeah.
Because it's all kind of, like I say, followed that journey and that path to kind of all come together. And I'm like, wow, this is a crazy turn of events, but it's amazing.
Yeah. So when people come to you, how does it all start? What's the process with this?
Well, there's different levels, I suppose, for everybody, because everybody's at a different point in their journey. So obviously with coaching, you've got to be willing to put the effort in. You've got to be willing to sit in a space of discomfort to grow, because you don't grow from comfort.
No.
You just stay in a space where you're not going to be truly happy. People can either follow me on my socials and feel like they get to know me a little bit more like that. So it's inspiration, coaching, support across all the social platforms. I have a free community on Facebook that people can engage with as well, so that they have that little bit of support. They can be nurtured within that space. They can get some support from the other people that are in there too, that are like-minded and on this journey themselves. That might look like a bit of a card reading every now and again, because I do tarot and angel readings and things. It might look like a bit of a post about your winners of the week and sharing, or what your struggles have been. It could be anything, but the group there are supportive as well, so they support each other. They'll answer each other's questions on posts and things like that, or they can reach out to me. There's other offers I've got, such as started doing tarot card readings at Crystalia in Middlewich, so it's at Hobley House Shopping Village. That's the first Saturday of every month. So you can come and get a little bit of guidance there from the universe. They were really powerful last weekend. I've got my circles, so I've got full moon circles, which the next one's on Monday, which is actually maxed out. And I've got wellbeing circles as well, where people can come, and it's an hour and a half to take out of your day, so you don't feel like you're putting a huge investment of your time in. But it's a good investment for you, where they'll bring something that's not been working very well for them, and then we'll reframe it to something positive. So we'll look at how actually we change that neural pathway within your system to make something positive out of it. Then they'll have a single card reading, then we'll do a meditation, or we might do some kind of ritual and things. So for instance, on Monday with the full moon circle, the full moon on Monday is all about shedding the old stuff that's not serving you anymore and growing into something new. So a bit like snake does, snake sheds its skin and then regrows. So it's about that. So we'll do a bit of a burning ritual. So we might write down something that's bothering us that we need to actually get rid of. Whether that's you thinking that you're not valuable enough to show up in, like within your promotion or whatever, and then we'll burn that, and that sends it off to the universe to say, do you know what? We're done with that. We're discarding it. We're bringing in some new energy to replace it.
Yeah.
I do workshops and things as well, so a variety of different talks and workshops in colleges, universities, you name it.
Sure.
And obviously one-to-one coaching wise, it's a case of reaching out. We'll do a little bit of a understanding, a bit of a dive, discovery on what it is you're looking to achieve, what it is that you're not happy with, and then go from there really, so you can engage in one-to-one coaching.
The idea of how the moon affects the planet and people is fascinating to me. I was reading the other day about how there's a correlation between the moon cycle and financial, so like the stock market and crypto and things like that, that at certain times of the circle, that's when
it peaks and troughs.
The people with lots of money will do different things. And,
oh, wow.
And I was like fascinated with the whole thing.
That makes sense with the health and wealth thing, I guess. But I haven't even, that's not come into my universe actually. Whereas, obviously I know it can massively impact your mood and sleep patterns. Like I've not been sleeping properly for the past probably 3 or 4 days. And I know that's because the energies are picking up towards the full moon. It's always the same. Okay. But you think everything in life is cycles. So women have cycles because they're the ones that obviously nurture and grow and reproduce and everything. I do think men have cycles too, if I'm honest. I don't think it's just women.
Just grumpy cycles.
Potentially.
That's just me.
But nature has cycles. You think we go through the seasons, they're cycles. Everything kind of hibernates to grow again and then comes back. Yeah. So why would the moon not impact us in that way too?
Well, it affects tides and all sorts.
Yeah, it's all energy.
Yeah.
It's all energy.
How did your kind of journey into tarot cards start?
Well, if I'm deeply honest, probably when I was a kid. I can remember when my mum and my stepdad used to go away in the caravan, I'd have my mates round and we'd do Ouija boards. And I'd be accused of faking it, and I was like, but I'm not. Right. So I had an interest there. Yeah. I think I've always had an interest in angel cards, tarot cards, all that kind of stuff, and I suppose witchy stuff. And like I say, I've either kind of become, not disillusion's not the right word, I've either become disconnected with it or I've engaged with it. I think obviously I've become more and more aligned with it in more recent years, especially since meeting my husband because he's quite a spiritual being too. Yeah. And started to do the angel kind of card readings in my circles just as an add-on to it. And then it was I went and did a tarot workshop to learn how to do it. But my husband's bought me my first tarot set actually in my box to keep them in, and it literally has just gone from there. I absolutely love it. Some people are scared by tarot, but there's nothing to be scared of. It is guidance. It's not. Yeah. There's nothing, no black magic or anything. It actually originates from playing cards. Right. That's why you've got the 4 suits.
Like SEO, so we call it black magic, don't they? Say all came from playing cards. And I mean, it's something that can interest a lot of people, but there's also kind of negative messaging around it.
You've got the death card and devil card and stuff in there. But to be honest, the meaning of the death card is actually that you're coming to the end of one transition and going into a new one. Right. So as we say, one door closes, another one opens. Yeah. The death of something doesn't mean it's somebody's died. It means that actually whatever you were working on, or that cycle, has now, it's to be put to rest, and you're to start a new cycle. Yeah. So that's what it means. And the devil card, all the cards can have obviously double meanings anyway, but the devil card is about potentially ridding yourself of anybody that might be draining that negative energy from you. And there's actually, like the Adam and Eve on it. Wow, I'm impressed myself sometimes how much I remember. they're connected, but they're choosing that connection. And so some of that messaging around that card is actually, should they stay in that connection, or is it a time that connection kind of ended?
Yeah.
And the sword is one of the suits which you can look at. It's a double edge. Obviously, any sword is a double edge, so it's either the positive or the negative of, if you use a sword for malice, it's going to cause harm, but actually you can use it to chop something off, or you could use it to slice through the air so that you can forge forward with direction. It's whatever you take from it. As we've said a lot on my mindset, if you approach anything with a mindset of fear, you're going to get fear back at you. If you approach it from an area of wonderment, like our children do up until the age of 7, everything's amazing. Everything's new to learn, and everything's got potential.
Yeah. I don't know if this is related or not, but so I'm quite lucky with friendships and people I know that usually quite positive, and it's the same in relationships as well as some people that seem to attract the wrong people, or there's a pattern that's constantly repeating. And it always amazes me how those things work, because at some point there must be some form of motivation to change this kind of cycle if they're aware of it, but it never does.
And again, it's that attraction kind of principle. Some people, and quite often those people are in those cycles because actually they've not done the work on themselves. And I can speak from experience in that, if I'm honest, fully transparent as a believer. So I'm just about to get married for the 3rd time, which I never expected. I got married the first time thinking that I would be married forever. I wanted to have the 2.4, like I'd not had, because my parents split when I was 10 years old, so I didn't want my boys to be in a broken home. But as it was, the relationship I attracted wasn't one that was conducive to that. There was a lot of challenge in it. There was quite a lot of toxicity within it. And that was largely down to the fact that I certainly didn't have the self-assurance that I have nowadays, and I didn't have the self-worth. So I stayed in that space for probably about 10 years. And then after that, thought, I'll do the work on me, I'll find the right person. And as it was, ended up with another individual who the relationship didn't go very well due to mental health and other issues, and became quite toxic afterwards as well. Again, I think some of that is because I felt that lack of worth of myself. I wanted to help other people feel better. So I suppose in one way you could say I picked fixer-uppers. Or attracted fixer-uppers, should I say. And but then when I left my second husband, so I've got quite a few tattoos, not that you can see them today. I went and had some flowers done on my leg. And I'm lay on the table, and the tattoo artist is a friend, and I just said, can you write love yourself unconditionally underneath it? He went, yeah, of course I can. No idea where that came from. No idea why it popped into my head. But from that moment, that's what I've done.
Yeah.
And in doing that, I started to do the work on myself, was happy to be on my own for a while and figure out who I was. It was at that point I launched Madonna as well. And then started a friendship with my now husband-to-be, and connected with him because actually what came across was the fact that he liked crystals, he liked Reiki, he'd got more of a worldly vision on things, and I was like, this is different. And in meeting him and obviously starting that relationship, which at the beginning had no intention of being anything other than a friendship, it became the best friendship I've ever had. And obviously now I marry him in 4 weeks' time, so yeah, it's true that when you...
Nice.
But that's breaking that cycle, was realising that if I didn't do something differently, then my boys wouldn't have the mum with them that I wanted them to have. So, and then loving myself unconditionally did that.
Kids are a big motivator for self-improvement, aren't they?
Definitely, because at the end of the day, what they see us doing has a big impact on them too. I utilise my coaching with them, how I bring my boys up all the time. Like whether it's trying to help my youngest navigate his overwhelm from his neurodivergent spiciness that he has, or whether it's managing situations with my eldest where he's having peer-to-peer kind of challenges, and we're like reflecting upon the fact that actually when people spill that toxicity out to you, it says more about what's going on for them than it does you. So yeah, lots of coaching techniques. very powerful.
Yeah. Bullies are often being bullied at some point in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what's coming up for you in the business? Obviously, you'll get married soon. So
I am, yeah. So June is going to be a very different month.
Yes.
June is going to
Well, hopefully
getting
the
married
good weather
and then
stays
going
for it all. And,
I booked it.
Yeah.
That's the universe. She's going to deliver. So June is obviously going to be a lot of time for me, actually. It's going to be a lot of time turning inward after 19 months of being very business focused. So it's going to be really good. It's going to be really good for me to take that break. But so from July onwards, I have a retreat day in July that I'm going to be hosting. All the details are still to be confirmed at the moment. It came from, I'm doing a weekend retreat in September, just outside of Lancaster, with another fabulous individual who I met through networking.
Yeah.
And they've got a beautiful, beautiful venue up there, and we get use of the whole venue. So it's got some really beautiful levels to it and everything, and we're going to do some really deep transformational work over the course of that weekend and have a massive celebration, because it's the full moon of harvest on the Sunday, so we're going to do a big celebratory feast all together. But then people were reaching out to me saying, have you got anything before that? Especially the parents that I was speaking to over Easter, where they were going, Jesus Christ, how do we juggle being a business owner or a senior manager and looking after kids at the same time? It's so hard. So they were kind of reaching out to me, and I was like, actually, they need something before then. I'm saying to them, when they've gone back to school and you've got time for you can come and engage with this, but they needed something before that to help them manage that, because that 6 weeks is very intense, isn't it? So I'm doing that in July. And at the moment, we're at the point of, I'm talking to anybody that's expressed an interest to say, okay, what would you like to see? What would you like to achieve from it? How can I make sure you get the best experience from this day? So that's what we're doing. But one of the outcomes will be that they'll be able to go off with not only the tips and tricks to manage that whole kind of period, but some amazing activities that they can actually do with their children, so that they can spend that quality time with them, doing some real bonding activities between them, and then they don't feel guilty then about going and doing some work while the kids maybe go off and engage themselves for a little while. So, yeah, that's what's coming up in that sense. What else is coming up? I suppose just more growth, more clients coming on board. There's lots of things in the pipeline. With the training side of it, there's lots in the pipeline at the moment to go in, because I go into children's residential settings with my care consultancy training. So some of that's around mental health and resilience, because obviously these children have come from really traumatic situations, and their staff are obviously dealing with that on a day-to-day basis to support the staff and managers there, but also their necessary training that they need to meet their registration needs. So in first aid training, medication training, audits, because obviously my background is transformation and quality assurance, so it all aligns perfectly. So yeah, there's lots in the pipeline that's just trickling away and about to turn over and become something really beautiful.
Amazing. Would you have any advice for anyone who feels like they're being drawn into doing something else or want to, but they're scared to make the jump, like you did?
What advice would I give them? First off, I would say, if you do it, it's going to be bloody hard, but it'll be worth it. What I would say is that if it's something you're considering and it keeps coming up in your thoughts, you need to give it some serious consideration, because things don't keep popping into your head unless they're meant to be something. And sometimes we can get those seeds of thoughts 5 years previously. We can get them 10 years previously. I've certainly had it, which is part of my kind of business direction actually as well. The advice I would give them is share some of those thoughts with someone you trust. Or if you don't want somebody that you feel has a judgment on it or that is too close, find somebody in a professional capacity, for instance, such as myself, who can help you to understand what that looks like for you. But do share it, sit and do some deep reflective work on what it looks like and what you want it to be and how you achieve it.
It's funny, isn't it, when you share things with people and the reaction you can get sometimes can be quite negative.
Yeah.
Like, well, lots of people doing that. Why would you want to do that? This kind of stuff. And so I would say it's kind of good to talk about it because it helps you get stuff out of your head and things come into play. And if you're someone, but don't be swayed by anyone that is negative if you still feel like
You've got to do what's right for you at the end of the day. I mean, I've had conversations only this week where somebody, and it comes from their sense of anxiety and their sense of fear, was saying that my spiritual focus and my spiritual kind of communication is scaring people off.
Yeah.
And I sat and I processed what they were saying. I listened to what their thoughts were on how it should go and everything. And obviously the marketing speak came in of if you talk to everybody, you're talking to nobody. So actually your messaging's got to be quite precise. Yeah. But then the other side of it was actually, well, if I'm scaring those people off, they're not the kind of people I want to be working with anyway. So it's, if you know something is such a passion for you and it's not going to harm anybody else, then why should you let anybody else's belief system or anybody else's fears stop you from doing it? If I spent too many years not doing what I believed in because I was stopped from doing it, because people's opinions told me, like, for instance, I came out of school and all I wanted to do was sing. So I was 15, 16 years old. I was like, I just want to sing. And everybody said to me, you need to get a proper job. Well, I listened and I went into nursing. Yes, it took me on a path. But also, like, for instance, so many people over the past 19 months have said to me, you need to go and get a job. You need to bring in some financial security. You can't keep doing this. How long are you going to give it? They are such harmful words. Because actually, what does it matter to them how long I give anything? What does it matter to anybody else what I'm doing? As long as I'm meeting my responsibilities and I'm not hurting anybody, what does it matter?
Yeah, unless it's an issue for you and you keep going to them and complaining about it.
And not taking action towards it.
Yeah, people are obviously going to have an opinion, aren't they? But if not, then, yeah.
And some people will stay in that space where they'll keep, like you say, keep going through those cycles where they're not taking action, they're not changing, they're not switching positioning on stuff. And they can only change that when they're ready. So if there is somebody that's negative, just thank them for their time and wander away. You don't need mood hoovers in your life.
If someone is struggling and not in a position to, or not happy with things in life or mentally or whatever, but they're not ready to contact you or to talk to anyone, do you have any advice for them at all?
Be kind to yourself. Biggest piece. Look after you, look after the fundamentals. So if that is that things are not going well, make sure you're eating properly. Make sure you're drinking plenty of water. Make sure you're trying to get your sleep on an even keel. Tap into podcasts and things of all these fabulous people everywhere. There's so many personal development people around. And I guess don't be afraid to try anything. I think I've gone through phases in life where different things have resonated at different points. So I might I listened to Tony Robbins at one point because I needed that motivational kick up the arse. But then on the other side, actually, I listened to Brené Brown because she's a lot calmer and a lot sweeter and a lot nicer. So it's all about finding what works for you. And that can change at any point as well. So don't be afraid that because something doesn't work right now, you've got to switch it. I suppose the other biggest thing I'd say is get out in nature. Because that's a beautiful place to connect to the ground and just to be able to process your thoughts. So put your phone away, disconnect from the rest of the world and just go and have a walk. So my why for the business came about 5 years ago. So in lockdown, I started to make gluten-free and vegan oat cakes because you couldn't get them. And this is all like wildfire, but it was hard work. And that started me thinking about community space. Found a place that I thought would be brilliant, and actually it turned into a motorbike dealership, which still, I love motorbikes, so that's good too. And I considered that for a bit, spoke to Neil Half about we could have a little cafe where people could just come in and not be isolated. And I suppose that came from the fact of COVID causing so much isolation with everyone being at home.
Sure.
But that's kind of grown because then when I went into the project management side of it, it was an idea that I tried to deliver with the voluntary sector, and the powers that be decided that it wasn't the direction of travel.
Sure.
So that's stayed with me, and it's always been something I wanted to do, and it's actually potentially, well, it's the next 3 to 5 year vision is to have a retreat space, a collaborative working environment for other therapists, other holistic practitioners, for people to come and get that little bit of solace for themselves, whether that's immersive stuff like retreats, whether that's a 30-minute session of something, and that is potentially going to be the big future picture for inspiration coaching, but it might come under some different kind of name, and it'll be a collaborative approach with my husband-to-be. So that's our aim, because it provides a legacy for our children as well as the community. So.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, good luck with that.
Thank you.
If anyone would like to get in contact with you at all, where can they find you?
As I said, all over socials. See my face splattered everywhere. Inspiration Coaching Support on Facebook, Instagram, page on LinkedIn, or find my profile, Steph Scholes. So yeah, you can't miss me with my purple hair. So.
Well, we'll put that on description of the
Fabulous.
episode.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Welcome.